Aloha everyone, pardon us for our technical difficulties. We are joining you today for our Facebook Live. Again, my name is Hadley Anderson. I'm the education specialist here at Lion Arboretum, and with me today is our postdoctoral researcher, Miriam San Jose. And Miriam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Hopefully this will go through. We had a great conversation about some of the things that you do here at Lion. So unfortunately, can you go ahead and reiterate some of those awesome things? As a postdoctoral researcher, what is your role here at Lion?
Okay, yeah. Well, I just started this year here. Mm-hmm. I'm working with some projects that Dr. Saksa Howie, the director of the Arboretum, has in Costa Rica. Mm-hmm. And these projects are mostly two. One is permanent plot they have there in a reserve, in Las Cruces Biological Reserve. That this plot, it's an area where they have been monitoring the tree growth and the mortality, the recruitment of individuals, of all the tree community for like 10 years now. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to see the dynamics of the forest, no? Mm-hmm. And the other project, it's ecological restoration experiment. It's experiment made at a landscape scale.
Okay.
Which is mainly what I have been doing for the last almost 10 years, landscape scale research. Wow. So there they have several plots where they started this restoration project in 2004, I think. So they have been monitoring what species arrive and how these plots are. It's like all the successional regeneration they're going. Mm-hmm. So there, what I'm doing is to try to see how the landscape around these plots, how it affects the restoration success, no?
Oh wow!
And yeah, and this information is very important for any type of restoration project, because I think that if we are able to join landscape ecology theory with ecological restoration practice, mm-hmm. Maybe we can improve the ecological restoration practice, no? Like by, I don't know, for example, like knowing in which areas it would be better to make restoration in order to make it more successful, no? Depending on how the forest is around, or yeah, so it's such kind of things.
So it's basically joining two fields. We have ecological restoration, and then we have the landscape theory, landscape ecology theory, and joining them both together to hopefully have a better success rate for forest restoration.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would like to do.
Yes, awesome. Okay. That sounds really fascinating, because obviously forest restoration is really, really important here in Hawaii, and mm-hmm. one of the things that why Lion itself was established was to restore the forest in order to restore the watershed here in Manoa Valley. So it's a long legacy of forest restoration that has happened here over the years, mm-hmm. But we know that with invasive species and also trying to restore native forests here in Hawaii, we do run into a lot of issues with the landscape and how it's changed, and then also maybe even, I don't know, soil composition. What exactly what are the bits and pieces you look at?
Which pieces
of let's do forest restoration first.
Okay, yeah, well, here, for example, in Hawaii, as you were saying, humans have been for a long time in these islands, and the landscapes have changed a lot, no? Are like highly modified by humans. and some species are extant in the wild. No, that's but the good part is like here, for example, the lion arboretum has some of these species. They are preserved here. Mm-hmm. So all these species that they are reproducing here, then some of these plants go back to some areas on the islands, and they, for example, Lion Arboretum collaborates also with the army by providing them the plants, and what they do is to plant them, no? Mm-hmm. But all the information of the monitoring, for example, of what happens with all those plants and where they are being successful and where they are not, there's also a need to analyze all mm-hmm. that data, no? And in that sense, for example, one of my colleagues here in the Arboretum, mm-hmm. that he also started like a postdoc here, Dr. Leland Werden. Mm-hmm. And he's now working with that part of gathering all this information of where they have been planting these species and what is happening, no? So with all that data, if you have like all the maps where are the restoration areas and how plants are doing there, mm-hmm. you're able to relate that success, for example, with how is the landscape around, no? Or what do you have around, no? in the mm-hmm. landscape. So
that's awesome. So thinking about the work that you're doing in Costa Rica, mm-hmm. It's worthwhile to study other tropical locations. We know Hawaii is so unique as a tropical location, but there are other forests around the world that beg to be restored, and so it's worth it to also see what other tropical locations are doing, correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for example, well, my previous experience is there in Mexico, mm-hmm. and there are also some efforts of ecological restoration and a lot of research also about landscape ecology, you know. So mm-hmm. so it would be wonderful to have like this really big network of tropical restoration ecologists working at really large scales, no?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really wonderful to have that connection, that international connection, because we do have that big band of tropics all around the world, mm-hmm. right? And we're losing a lot of forests there.
Yeah, and actually tropical forests are the hotspots of deforestation mm-hmm. nowadays, no? So it's very necessary, this kind of research and activities.
Fantastic. Well, I know that also we're talking about a new-ish program is coming up with University of Hawaii. They're going to be able to do. Can you tell us a little bit about that class program?
Yeah. In the University of Hawaii, there are several research units. So these research units are planning to make a course for undergrad students in order to keep them motivated and engage them into research, no, and to finish like the science careers, no. Mm-hmm. So I'll be helping them to try to put together all these research units and develop all the logistics and topics of a course that is named Transformative Research Experiences, where the undergrad students are going to go to all these research units the research units go from astronomy to cancer and also marine biology. Here the Lion Arboretum is one of the research units. So the idea is that the students can spend 1 week in each of the research units mm-hmm. and see how research is done there, participate in a project there also. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that when the students are like in the place where the research is done and doing it and watching how how is the real life into into the research institutes or
because it's one thing
they get more motivated.
It's one thing, especially as an undergrad, to go into like a botany class and sit down and learn the different parts of the plant and stuff like that, but it's quite another thing to actually see what plant research looks like.
And to do it and to develop small projects in this. And also in the idea is also to try to make them feel good with the decision of having a career, a science career, and try to avoid this part of just like having lectures and watching the professor talking by a lot of time. So they can be not only seeing the researchers but doing some small researchers, no, and in that way they can find what they really like, no, or which are their passions, no, for example, no, and that is very important to keep them engaged in a science career.
Engage in a science career or discover their love for a science career too.
Of course.
Do you mind if I ask you what made you choose to go into forest ecology? Did you have a transformative experience like that?
No. No, something like a transformative, I think that no, but since I was a child, I always loved nature, no, and mostly animals, no.
Yeah.
And so I decided to study biology. And then while I was in biology, I have the ecology class, and there is where I fall in love with ecology, you know. I really love it.
Ecology is the relationships?
Ecology, it studies the relationships between the organisms and their environment, no? So, and you can study anything, you know. You're not married with one group of organisms, no. You can study any kind of living thing.
That's fantastic. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to end that there, unless there's anything you'd like to add.
As you told me that I should talk about how is the link between Lion Arboretum and research. I would also like to add my experience for these few months here, that I've seen that some researchers come here to Lion to make some work. For example, a few months there were some specialists from IUCN.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they were here because, as you know, here in Hawaii we have a lot of endangered plants. So they were like updating all the info we have here, no?
So IUCN is the International Conservation Union of Naturalists. Maybe I just made that up.
Conservation of Nature, I think it is.
Conservation of Nature. And they're the ones who determine if a species is
endangered, threatened, extant. Or, there are some species that can jump from, for example, extant to like a few individuals. No, that I think it's maybe the case of some species here. No, as here they are reproducing them. Maybe some that we thought they were extinct. Now there are some individuals there. No.
Yeah. So IUCN is
the International Union for the Conservation of Nature.
Okay, International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And so, exactly with Hawaii. So when they classify something as extinct, it's usually in the wild. But we could have it, say, here at our Hawaiian Rare Plant Program, and have it in our micropropagation lab or in seeds, and then reproduce them. And then once we plant them out in the wild, we might have a few individuals that pop back up. And that feeds also into your research, which is the good spots to put things. You want to restore those plants, and if they're healthy. So we had a couple researchers come not too long ago, and so we're heavily involved in international conservation.
and that's fantastic. That it's also some research that is done here in Lyon. No?
Mm-hmm.
Very important research, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're a small place, at least as our footprint is. Well, that's not even true too, because we have 200 acres here, right? So, but we have a big part to play, and I think we all do in conservation of our native environment. So, and of our environment. Anything else?
No, I think that's all I.
Well, if there's any other questions that popped
questions,
up, you're welcome to email us at linearborenumeducation@gmail.com. There is a question.
Go, Miriam. Some friends in Mexico watching this. Hey.
Now we have international viewers. Yes, we're making headlines. All right, Miriam, thank you so much for joining me, and even with our technical difficulties today, we'll hope to see you guys next week. We'll have another exciting guest. You'll see who that is next Tuesday. Keep an eye out on Facebook Live for that, and see you next time. Ahoy ho!